Business and risk goes hand in hand. They're natural bedfellows. It's impossible to avoid risk completely in your business. In this week's video on I Hate Numbers, I'm going to be talking to you about what risk actually is, how we identify risk, and the general options available to us to actually manage that risk. Hi folks, welcome to another weekly episode of I Hate Numbers, the channel that's there to help improve the battle between your ears, improve your financial awareness, help you and your business make more profit, save tax and time. My name is Mahmood. I'm an accountant, educator, and now proud author of the book, I Hate Numbers, the book that will change your relationship with numbers and improve your business no end. Let's crack on with the video. Firstly, let's look at the idea of what risk actually is. Risk is any event, any activity, any circumstance that prevents you from fully getting to your Northern Star, from fully realising your plan, from fully realising your goal. Anything that impedes on that, having seen what a risk is in general terms, how do we actually go about identifying what risks are? Now we can grab our notebook and pen, we can go around and just make a list, anything that comes into our heads. A far better way is to actually look at risk in terms of groups. And there are typically four groups or four types of risk that we will encounter in our business. And they are strategic risk, operational risk, compliance risk, and financial risk. Let's have a look at each of those in turn. Now, strategic risk is the big picture stuff. It's things that may happen in your marketplace. It may happen in terms of your customers' behaviours may change, and that has a big impact on your sales. And if it has an impact on your sales, it will have an impact on your ability to generate profit, to generate cash flows. The other type of risk that we've got is what's called operational risk. And operational risk is something that impacts on the day-to-day running of your business. It could be the staff team that you have, a loss of one of those members of staff, or it could be something that will have a detrimental effect on the ability of your business to continue. What we're talking about now is the identification of those risks. It could be a supplier, it could be a raw material, a component that you're using in your product, and again, the loss of that, the delay in getting that into your business to manufacture and to transform that into a product. Compliance risk, that's changes in the law, changes in regulations, whether it's at local level, whether it's at national level or international level, changing any of those rules and regulations. And lastly, there's the financial risk. Financial risk typically will cover things like cash flow, profitability, and anything that impacts on cash flow. So whether that's in terms of clients and their payment terms, clients not paying on time, that financial risk, that cash flow risk is a very real risk. So having identified the groups of risk that we're looking at, we need to go then and actually trawl and identify what they could be. And don't do this exercise as a standalone. Talk to your team, talk to your freelancers, talk to your staff team, and have an all-rounded conversation, talk to your senior management team, and identify what those risks are. At this stage, we're not actually thinking about what we should do to try and mitigate and manage them. We need to identify before we can act. Look at your sector. There may be risks specific to your particular sector that don't exist in other sectors. So firstly, having trawled and identified the groups of risks, put them into our sort of categories, and making a list of them, we then need to think, how do we actually manage those risks? And there are a number of techniques available to us. So please tune into next week's video, by the way, where I'm going to be talking about something called a risk register. But for now, let's think about the main ways that we can actually manage the risks that we've identified. Option one is avoidance. You just don't participate in that activity, that event, or that situation where that risk could actually happen. So avoidance is an option. And again, like all things in life, there'll be a balancing act between following one course of action, what the cost and benefits will be as a result involved. Number two, we can do what's called transference, where we are transferring that risk to a third party, perhaps by outsourcing. Doesn't make the risk go away completely, by the way, but that outsourced organisation would actually absorb some of that risk. The risk is passed on. In my own business, we act as an outsourcing partner for many businesses where we'll take on accounting work, tax planning work here, and we'll be that virtual or in-house accounting team for that business. They've outsourced it, but they still have ultimate legal responsibility for what goes on. So that's another way, transferring it. Look at the supply agreements you've got with your freelancing team. with your suppliers that you work with. And what happens is you can actually transfer some of the risk involved to them as well. You could share that risk. Now, insurance, by the way, is often quoted as an option, how to deal with risk. For me, insurance is a way to mitigate the financial impact of you taking on a risk, but it doesn't actually make the risk go away. The danger in just thinking about insurance will cover everything is the problem could still be there, but you're not actually looking to identify and manage that risk to mitigate the impact, to reduce it. Obviously, insurance companies, when they offer you the premium, offer you the cover, will expect you to have taken certain steps, but insurance in itself, which may be limited in the amount that they can cover, does not eliminate the risk involved. Folks, let's just wrap up what we've got. We've talked about what risk is. It's something that prevents you from achieving your objectives, something that stops you achieving your Northern Star. We've talked about identifying risks and grouping them by strategic, operational, compliance and financial risk. We've then talked about the sources, how we find out. It could be something specific to your sector. It could be something that's general. We need to talk to our team. We need to talk to our suppliers. We need to talk to our stakeholders to help map and identify what those risks actually are. We'll talk about some of the options of managing that risk. Hope you found this useful. I'd love it if you could actually share this with those who you think will benefit. Don't forget to smash or press very gently that subscribe button so you can keep in touch with what's going on in the business world. Check out my show notes as well. Check out the free introduction to my book, I Hate Numbers, and I'm sure it will change for the positive your relationship with numbers. Until next week, folks.